Indonesia recorded 0.28% inflation in November. Third quarter of 2020, Krakatau Steel posted $27.39 million loss. Good afternoon, viewers in Indonesia and Singapore. Market Headlines is ready to provide you a number of informations from the business, economic, and capital market sectors. With me, Fajar Wayong, this is Market Headlines. The Central Statistics Agency announced that throughout November 2020, there was inflation of 0.28% compared to the previous month. BPS noted that the increase in inflation was mainly contributed by the food price group. The Central Statistics Agency or BPS recorded inflation in November of 0.28% on a monthly basis. The Central Statistics Agency explained that year-to-date inflation from January to November 2020 reached 1.23%, while annual inflation was 1.59%. Increase in food and beverage prices by contributing to inflation by 0.22%, while price increases chicken meat contributed 0.08% inflation.
2020 ini sebesar 0,28% man-to-man. Jadi kalau kita bandingkan dengan bulan lalu. Kemudian kalau inflasi untuk tahun kalender yaitu November 2020 dibandingkan dengan Desember 2019 itu mengalami inflasi 1,23%.
BPS added that a number of foodstuffs still contributed to deflation, such as rice and beef, which contributed to deflation of 0.01%. Apart from food prices, gold also contributed to deflation of 0.02%. From Jakarta, Raharjo Padmo for IDX Channel. Meanwhile, BPS noted that until October 2020, the number of foreign tourist visits to Indonesia was still very limited due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In October, foreign tourist visits were only 158,000 visits, or slightly increased from September 2020. The Central Statistics Agency or BPS noted that foreign tourist visits throughout October 2020 reached 158,000 visits, or an increase of 4.57% on a monthly basis. BPS stated that the number of foreign tourist visits in October 2020 has decreased sharply by 88.25% on an annual basis. BPS revealed that even though some countries have experienced easing, but several other countries are still enforcing restrictions. This is what causes foreign tourists to still think about traveling because of health problems.
Jadi secara man-to-man untuk kunjungan wisatawan ini naik 4,57%. Kemudian kalau kita bandingkan tahun lalu, di mana kondisinya masih normal, ini year on year-nya masih minus 88,25%.
Cumulatively, from January to October 2020, the number of foreign tourist visits to Indonesia reached 3.72 million visits. This number decreased by 72.35% when compared to the number of foreign tourist visits in the same period in 2019, which reached 13.45 million visits. From Jakarta, Raharjo Padmo for IDX Channel. Finance Ministry reported that realization of National Economic Recovery Fund has reached 430 trillion rupiah from total 695 trillion rupiah. In the same time, the ministry also mentioned that the realization of social protection stimulus reached 207 trillion rupiah. Finance Ministry is optimistic that budget allocation for social protection can be realized optimally in December 2020. Besides that, up to now, the government has distributed incentives for healthcare workers as much as 7.22 trillion rupiah for 681,000 workers. The government has also distributed 254.37 trillion rupiah loan from state-owned banks, Islamic banks, and regional banks. The total distributed loan is 4 times government's placement fund in banks. Meantime, Finance Minister Sri Mulyani stated that 233.69 trillion rupiah for social protection has been distributed.
Saat ini kita sudah mengeluarkan lebih dari 233 triliun untuk melindungi masyarakat kita dari segi sosial. Bantuan sosial dalam bentuk belanja untuk lebih dari 10 juta keluarga yang mendapatkan program Keluarga Harapan. Kemudian masih ada lagi lebih dari 19,2 juta yang mendapatkan bantuan sembako dan bantuan tunai.
Meantime, for 2021, the state budget will be focused on health sector, and in the same time, the government is still calculating the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines. From Jakarta, Gilang Praditya for IDX Channel. Ministry of Health is now arranging roadmap for COVID-19 vaccine financing. Later on, the financing will be divided into 2 categories, which are self-financing and subsidized by government.
Expert staff in the economic sector of Health Ministry, Muhammad Subuh, stated that the currently Indonesia government is preparing roadmap for COVID-19 financing. This financing will be divided into 2, either self-financed or subsidized by the government. And therefore, the government is now formulating which people are categorized as getting a subsidized vaccine. Even so, ministry still cannot explain how many people will get subsidized vaccines. But the government still ensures a number of health workers will be at the forefront of getting the vaccine first, and then followed by other supporting institutions.
Tentu pemerintah sudah mempunyai suatu skema, ya, mana yang mandiri, mana yang akan di-cover oleh pemerintah. Itu dulu dipegang ya. Seperti contoh misalnya BPJS Kesehatan, ada 96,6 juta yang ditanggung oleh pemerintah. Ada yang bayar ya melalui mekanisme, ada yang dan lain-lain. Ini juga seperti ini. Makanya pemerintah dalam hal ini ada yang skema mandiri tentunya ya, ada yang memang ditanggung oleh pemerintah. Tentang jumlahnya saya kira saya belum bisa memberikan saat ini ya.
According to the ministry spokesperson, various vaccines from abroad that have passed the 3rd stage of clinical trials will be imported in mid-December, while for the clinical trials of vaccines produced by Biopharma will be completed by the next January. Jakarta, Adi Firmansyah for IDX Channel.
Market headlines will be right back. Stay tuned.
Sebetulnya industri hilir itu lokal itu udah siap. Jadi pemerintah juga nggak perlu lagi menarik investor untuk industri hilir. Jadi pemerintah cukup menarik investor untuk industri bahan baku.
welcome back to Market Headline. The Central Bureau of Statistics recorded inflation throughout November 2020 of 0.28%. The spiraling prices of several commodities drove Indonesia's inflation to rise.
The inflation data of November, which was released by the Central Bureau of Statistics, stated that there was 0.08% of inflation, and therefore, as a year-on-year, Indonesia experienced 1.59% inflation. Inflation was contracted by the price developments for various commodities in November 2020, which indicated an increase. But Statistic Indonesia also highlighted some commodities that contributed dominantly to current inflation rate. The biggest contributor belongs to food and beverages and tobacco, which is contributed of a 0.86%. 83 of the 90 cities surveyed for the Consumer Price Index witnessed inflations with the highest of 1.15% recorded in Tual, while 7 cities witnessed a deflation of the highest of a 0.22% recorded in Kendari. Jakarta, Gilang Praditya for IDX Channel.
Yes, viewers, in November, the Indonesia's inflation trend continued. According to the report, the November figures indicates a persistent increase in 2 months in a row. Previously, Indonesia experienced deflation for 3 consecutive months, namely July to September. So how was the trend going so far? Let's take a look in the next graphic. So this is Indonesia's inflation trend. We can see that this is the data in 2020. January, Indonesia recorded inflation 0.39%. In February, 0.28%, while in March, there was 0% inflation. And April, inflation hit 0.08%, and May, it was a lower 0.06%. And in June, 0.18%, and July, August, September, Indonesia recorded deflation in 3 consecutive months. In July, 0.01% deflation, in August 0.05%, and 0.05% in September. While in October, Indonesia again posted inflation at 0.07% and November 0.28%, and the data is taken from Indonesia Statistics Agency. Well, in short, the November inflation brought the calendar inflation to 1.23% and year-on-year inflation to 1.59%. So what does it mean? The minimum rise in inflationary pressure indicates a persistent low in the purchasing power of consumers, especially at a time when the economy is on the verge of recession, characterized by increases in price of major food items and service fee. Speaking about sectors, there were some sectors that possessed higher inflation than others, and let's take a look in the next graphic. So in this graphic, there are sectors experience major deflation. The first sector is food and beverage with 0.86% deflation, healthcare 0.32% deflation, and transportation 0.3% deflation. So there were sectors experience major deflation by Indonesia Statistics Agency. Contradictorily, there are sectors that experience deflation. The group of personal care and other services recorded a deflation of 0.23%. While the group of housing, water, electrical power, and household fuels witnessed a deflation of 0.04%. And back again in Indonesia's case, food and beverage and tobacco sector contributed to the highest to the inflation at 0.86%. And let's see what are the commodities that gave highest contribution through the next graphic. So this is the sector as main contributor of a deflation. Chicken eggs 0.04%, chicken meat 0.08%, and shallots 0.03%. On the other hand, there were still several foodstuff commodities that experienced price declines or deflation. Among them, rice and beef each contributed 0.01% to last month's deflation. But the question is, why did most food commodities post inflation? Statistic Indonesia has the answer. The agency attributed the hike in prices to the disruption in supplies at the start of the rainy season. The agency also warned the impact of the rainy season may go the inflation up in the coming months, particularly for foodstuff commodities that are susceptible to weather in terms of production and distribution. Meanwhile, the agency noted that 83 of the 90 cities surveyed for Consumer Price Index witnessed inflation, And let's see what are the cities with highest inflation and also deflation in the next graphic. So cities with highest inflation and also deflation. Tual in Nusa Tenggara posted highest inflation at 1.15% in November, while Kendari posted deflation 0.22%. The data is taken from Indonesia Statistics Agency. As the highest of 1.15% recorded in Tual, while the lowest of 0.01% registered in Bima. Meanwhile, 7 cities witnessed deflation with the highest of 0.22% recorded in Kendari and the lowest of 0.01% registered in Melaboh and Palopo. But the good thing is, as a whole, the consumer price index picked up for the 3rd time in a row and was higher than the 1.44% recorded in October, but still below Bank Indonesia's target range of 2 to 4%. On a month-to-month basis, the CPI rose of 0.28%. So even though weakening consumer demand persists in Indonesia despite a jump in annual inflation recorded in November, big chances are still there to make economy goes well again. So viewers, stay tuned on Market Headlines. We'll be right back after the break.
IDX Channel, the Indonesia Stock Exchange channel, is the authorized capital market channel in Indonesia. To give references to global investors, IDX Channel also presented the news about the dynamic of Indonesia's economy, business, and capital market in English. IDX Channel also have different types of programs. They are Special Dialogue, Market Opening, Market Review, IDX First Session Closing, IDX Second Session Closing, Market Headlines, and News Screen. IDX Channel is aired 24 hours a day with 5 hours live program from Indonesia Stock Exchange trading floor. Our vision and mission as the only capital market TV channel in Indonesia that is committed to improve the capital market knowledge in the country. News that had been delivered on IDX Channel can also be seen on our digital platforms, so you can give yourself an update about informations anywhere and everywhere. IDX Channel can be watched through Vision Channel, First Media Channel, IndiHome Channel, and Vision Plus, and also live streaming on idxchannel.com. IDX Channel provides information from around the world from different perspectives. We provide you various investment strategies, stock options, inspiring figures for your business references. IDX Channel, your trustworthy economic, business, and capital market channel.
So welcome back. We're on the last segment. At the Jakarta Composite Index intraday movement earlier today, JCI was open at the level of 5,755.18, and then approaching the closing time on the first session, the index was on the level of 5,773.09, and then the index was showing strengthening trend by the second session closing time. Index was closed at level 5,803.99. In short, JCI went up 1.38%. And next, we're going to see the sectoral movement. Leading the dynamics of today's trading, we got miscellaneous industry as the leader of strengthening trend that went up 2.55%. Mining went up 2.43%, and infrastructure, the leader of weakening trend, that went down 2.5%. Trade went down 1.81%. And moving on to top gainers and top losers, here are the key highlights from today's trading session. Aneka Tambang went up 7.79% to the level of 1,245 per share. BBKP went up 21.43% to the level of 340 rupiah per share. Sampurna or HMSP went up 5.75% to the level of 1,655 rupiah per share. Astra International went up 3.15% to the level of 5,725 rupiah per share. Meantime, the top losers for today's trading, we got NATO went down 6.4% to the level of 585 rupiah per share. Pura went down 4.48% to the level of 128 rupiah per share. ENTP went up 1.5% to the level of 14,800 rupiah per share, and Trin went down 6.61% to the level of 226 rupiah per share. And next, we're going to see the intraday movement of rupiah towards US dollar. So open at the level of 14,164. Rupiah was also showing strengthening trend towards US dollar and was closed at the level of 14,112. In summary, rupiah went up 0.29%. State-owned company Krakatau Steel recorded 27.39 million US dollar loss by the end of September 2020. The company's loss relatively lower than previous year at 211.91 million US dollar.
State-owned company Krakatau Steel recorded 27.39 million US dollar loss by the end of September 2020. The company's bottom line was contributed by lower revenue that declined by 10.85% year-on-year to only 938.79 million US dollar. Regarding company's financial performance, President Director of Krakatau Steel, Silmi Karim, stated that transformation and restructuring in all aspects have delivered positive results and made Krakatau Steel able to survive amidst COVID-19 pandemic. The director said that until the end of third quarter this year, the company has lowered operational expenses each month up to 50%. The expenses include energy costs as much as 41%, utility costs 21%, consumable costs 51%, and spare part 60% lower than 2019. From all sources, for IDX Channel.
Lang Mahkota Teknologi or MTech officially acquired Sarana Meditama Metropolitan shares. The acquisition aims to expand company's business line in healthcare services.
Lang Mahkota Teknologi or MTech officially acquired Sarana Meditama Metropolitan shares, or widely known as Omni Hospitals Network Manager. Based on information disclosure, MTech spent 581.01 billion rupiah for the acquisition transaction. The transaction value is equal to 71.88% of Sarana Meditama's full paid-in capital. The acquisition transaction was conducted on November 30, 2020. Total shares reached 4.24 billion units with acquisition price 137 rupiah per share. Meantime, through this acquisition, MTech aims to expand and strengthen company's existing business line in healthcare services through subsidiary company. The management believes that the acquisition will make MTech as a bigger company with various business line or activities. From all sources, for IDX Channel.
COVID-19 Handling Task Force calls on regional election team members to ensure regional election is safe from coronavirus. Only counting days to regional election day, such euphoria is also followed by fear covered in COVID-19 pandemic, as the election has high risk of COVID-19 transmission. Spokesperson for COVID-19 Handling Task Force, Wicky Adrian, stated that all regional election teams should do testing. This aims to ensure regional election is safe from coronavirus.
Kami meminta kepada penyelenggara pilkada untuk melakukan testing kepada panitia pemungutan suara yang nanti akan bertugas di setiap TPS. Pastikan mereka yang bertugas sehat.
Step aside from market condition as coronavirus pandemic takes big role on current economic situation. Here it is an update data about coronavirus globally.
And viewers, the news close our market headlines today. Please enjoy our next program on IDX Channel, Your Trustworthy Economic, Business and Capital Market Channel. Before saying goodbye, I would like to remind you on what Mom said. Please do comply with health protocols by using mask, physical distancing, and avoiding crowd. Also, washing your hand often with soap through overflowing water. So I'm Fajar Wayong. Have a nice evening and stay safe.
Ya halo pemirsa, nama saya Mangi Teracong. Saat ini saya menjabat sebagai presenter dan juga associate producer. Saat ini saya membawakan program IDX Session Closing, di mana di program tersebut saya menganalisa isu-isu ekonomi yang menarik, baik dari